The NFL schedule is out. We will take a close look at how the NFL gave the Bills some breaks on the schedule and made the Bills' lives tough.
The Bills are in prime time again and again and again. We'll go through some of those games.
And we'll take a close look at the AFC East and how do their schedules break down, and also the schedule of the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. The Play Action podcast starts now.
So we now know the Bills' schedule for the upcoming season. Mark, what are your initial thoughts about it? How hard, how easy is this year?
It's a very tough schedule, but we knew that in when the season ended in January. We've known the teams, so it's a tough schedule because the AFC East is very tough, and they have a first place schedule, which means they have to play Kansas City and the Bengals and Jacksonville. And their crossover with the NFC is one of the tougher NFC schedules because they got to play the Eagles and Dallas in particular. So we knew it was a tough schedule, but when I look at how the elements of the schedule and what the league gives you, it's a good schedule. Number one, it's a late bye. That's good. Do you have a rest advantage or a rest disadvantage in games? And really, they have two major rest advantages and one major rest disadvantage. In other words, they're coming off a bye before the Kansas City game, which is what they would want. And they have the second rest advantage. Just checking here, the Cincinnati game. At Cincinnati, they play Thursday night the week before. They play one team that has a bye before them, Denver. So do they go on the road? Do you go on the road after a Sunday night or a Monday night game? That's really hard. No, they don't. Do they have negated bye weeks, meaning they had the bye, but the other team also had the bye? No. No Thanksgiving, which that's a personal thing. I hate missing my Thanksgiving dinner. No 3 straight road games. They have a late bye. So those are all elements. There's no 4 games in 17 days. Coaches don't like it when you open the season with 2 on the road or close with 2 on the road. They don't have to do that. Coaches don't like an early bye. They don't have to do that. Yes, they play 4 of the last 6 on the road, which is hard, and the end of it is hard, but it is beneficial when you have a passing offense. So they're not staring at the last 6 games in terrible windy weather. So as far as what the league gave them, I think it's a pretty advantageous schedule.
Yeah, I think, like you said, given how hard their opponents were going to be regardless, they do get some breaks there. Um, Selfishly was hoping for the bye after the London game, but once they announced how early in the season that was going to be ahead of the rest of the schedule, I think we all knew that was not going to happen. But yeah, the bye this year coming later, especially compared to last year when it was so early, I thought was notable. And again, just kind of how these games broke as far as it could have been a lot harder. We know kind of how chaotic last year's schedule ended up being with some extra factors thrown in from weather. But I think, yeah, as far as your opponents, this could have been a lot tougher than it ended up being, just the way the schedule came out.
Obviously, it's a tough finish. You look at the late season schedule, there is a stretch there. Jets at home, at Eagles, bye, Kansas City, Dallas, Chargers. That's a rough 6 games. But I would always prefer like the idea of getting a decent start. And so they have some of their easier games theoretically early. I mean, Vegas in the home opener with a new quarterback, Washington. I mean, none of these games are easy, but that's easier. Jacksonville Giants at home. They have a chance to get off to a decent start, and they better get off to a decent start because the end is tough. And then, they got the short week, a real short week game against at home on a Thursday night, but it's Tampa. So that's a break. Tampa is frankly tanking. So that's a good element.
Yeah, I think also having Miami on the road at the end of the season instead of early in the year when obviously that was problematic last year, just with so many guys going out for the Heat. a nice thing too for, anyone going to the game who is not playing in it. Miami in January is a little nicer. But I think still just from a football perspective, that was so notable last year having those, Miami in September. And now they've got it to close the season.
No doubt. The Bills have 6 primetime games, which is the maximum to start the season. And that tells you something about what the league and the networks think about the Bills. What do you think, Catherine?
Yeah, I don't think it's too much of a surprise given how they've been the last few years, their trajectory. They started last season too with 6 games off the schedule in prime time. I think the most notable one to me, or I don't know if most notable, but to start Monday night against the Jets, at the Jets with Aaron Rodgers making his debut there, it's very clear that networks were noticing how juicy some of these matchups are, not only because of the Bills, but because of the other teams they're facing, those storylines there. And so I don't think it's too much of a surprise that they have this many primetime games at all. That's, what they have played into at this point.
Yeah, the Bills have played the Jets in the opener 3 of the last 6 years, but the networks don't care about old history or what happened 6 years ago. They care about the matchup, Rodgers and Allen. And so it's the teams with 6 primetime games are Buffalo, Super Bowl champion Kansas City, Dallas, America's teams, so to speak, and the Chargers. LA market. So that's what the NFL is looking at. I think the Jets tough opener, no doubt that on the road, team's home opener on a Monday night. That's a tough situation. I would probably rather play the Jets early in the opener. Because new quarterback, new coordinator, yes, Aaron Rodgers and Nate Hackett were together in Green Bay, so they're bringing the Green Bay offense. The Bills know about that, but still, you got to figure, however, in much of a mind meld Aaron Rodgers is going to have with his new cast, it's going to be a little less in the season opener.
Yeah, I think that timing helps a bit there. What's interesting to me too is not just the number of primetime games, but how they rarely play at 1 p.m. They mix in so many of those 425 games too, a big stretch of those towards the end of the season. And so really 5 1 p.m. games going into the season. I think just, a little different, obviously. It still spaces out kind of nicely, but I thought that was really interesting. They have such a long stretch from end of October at the Patriots to very end of December 31st versus the Patriots where they don't have a 1 p.m. game.
And this is a good thing for Bills fans. This is life. This is life as a contender. And this is what Kansas City has been dealing with every year. And this is what the Bills dealt with every year in, the old day, in the Super Bowl era. And so it's good. It's a good thing. We went 17 years of the drought with 17 1 or 16 1 p.m. games, because they were the team nobody wanted to see. So it's a good thing, and it's a challenge, and that's life as a contender.
So outside of the Bills schedule, it's been pretty interesting to see also how this has played out for the rest of the AFC East. Mark, what did you think about how that worked out?
Well, I think like the Bills, the AFC East teams have very tough schedules, again, due to tough crossovers and the competition within division. And you look at some noteworthy things. The Jets, really tough early schedule. 4 of their first games are brutal. 6 games are brutal. They got Buffalo, at Dallas, New England. They've lost 14 straight to New England, which is bizarre. Kansas City, Denver, Philly. So that's a brutal first 4 stretch. Now, the end of their stretch is a little easier. New England, really tough start. Philly, Miami, at the Jets, at Dallas. New England could be 0-4. Miami starts off 2 games on the road, which you never love. At the Chargers, tough. At New England. And then Miami, like the Bills, have a tough end. Miami's last 4. Jets, Dallas, Baltimore, Buffalo. So AFC East, has a rough schedule, and then Kansas City's got a really tough schedule again. I think Kansas City might have the hardest schedule in the league. They open on Thursday Night Football against Detroit, but some of the elements of the schedule, they're at the Jets on Sunday Night Football, and then they have to go at a road game after Sunday Night Football at Minnesota. Tough game. They play Philly on Monday Night Football, and then they got to go on the road to Vegas. Now you might say Vegas late in the year, they're going to be a trash tire fire. Maybe, but division games are tough. And so, Kansas City's got a tough schedule. They navigate it every year. So if you're good, it doesn't matter.
I thought the season opener choice of Kansas City and Detroit was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
When the Lions are fun, they're really fun. But I don't know about this matchup to start the NFL season. That being said, last year, I think a lot of us were like, Bills, Rams, oh my gosh, that's going to be a fantastic game. And we're wrong on that. So at least from a competitive football standpoint. I thought that was an interesting season opener.
Yeah, and that's a good caveat to all this discussion. Some games that look really tough or look really easy can flip. Okay, Miami is going to be a tough matchup, but is Tua Tagovailoa going to play 17 games? If he's out, okay, that game seems easier. The Bills have had, some quarterbacks are going to get hurt. You playing the backup, game turns out a lot easier.
Yeah, I think the other thing notable league-wide is just how they're expanding so much on the holidays. The Bills avoided that this year. They're not playing on Thanksgiving. I know, Mark, you said before, and echoing, it's for us, we are excited for that. But they added as well a Black Friday game this year. It's the Dolphins Jets. I think that'll be a really fun matchup. But, just kind of seeing the way the NFL is still finding ways to take over the calendar, to take over holidays, especially. The Bills do play on New Year's Eve, which is a Sunday. So many teams play, but they got a home game for that. So as far as, how it all breaks, having at LA, the Chargers on December 23rd, the Saturday, instead of into Christmas weekend a little bit more, looking at some of those holidays, it worked out a little bit better than past years where it's been very chaotic with holidays. So obviously a lot of really exciting games. Eventually when September rolls around, we'll have all sorts of Bills coverage for y'all. So make sure you subscribe wherever you're getting your podcasts or on YouTube and check out buffalonews.com.